Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers. Welcome to another edition of our weekly Peace Talk Show. This is the show that is brought to you to discuss on issues surrounding our national peace and security. This is your host, alias Justice. Today also we have a very great and a very prominent personality here with us who join us to discuss on a very important topic. And before we go further, we say, Mr. Sallah, you're welcome to the Peace Talk Show platform.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
He is Mr. Hon.Halifa Sallah, the Secretary General of PDOIS and also the co-chair of the Inter-Party Committee. He joined us live online today on Fado Network to discuss on a very important topic, that is the role of politicians in ensuring peaceful election. So this is a topic that can be discussed adequately because we are approaching elections, and it is very important for us to discuss on issues surrounding peace. Mbadi ngolong kami kaca jambi wala nyindi ko nada jang Fado Network bundala ka kaca ngolong kudimi along ngolong politician wol fanan loda e kami ke katada puru isaje ko banko se Cairo sato nying wato la mi along ko election wato le kana anu bi min kafutan kanja wala nyindi wala Hon.Halifa Sallah. Hon.Halifa Sallah, you welcome to the Peace Talk. So, but before going further, I would actually want you to tell us what is peace, and you are at liberty to use any language.
Peace must be put in context. Otherwise, we'll be talking about ideals rather than reality. The context is the context of a nation. A nation is an entity of its own, with territorial integrity, with the right to political independence, with the right to sovereignty. And when you talk about a nation, you're not only talking about territory, you're talking about a people. So when we say peace in this context, we're talking about a country called the Gambia, with a people called the Gambian people. We want prosperity, we want liberty. So each individual has rights to be a human being, endowed with dignity and self-worth, and should have self-esteem. Once you have that, you are secure. It is also very important to realize that we are not only individuals with rights, but we are also social beings. We belong to a society, and therefore we should have social rights and rights of an association to come together. And when we talk about associations, we have the unions, we have women associations, youth associations, but we also have the political association. I'm sure you will eventually come to that. And the political association is the party structure. So if we put peace in its proper context in the Gambia, we will say that as a Gambian people, we expect our rights to be respected and protected. But we also expect our social rights, the association that we should have, to be respected and protected. And all of us should coexist in an environment where I do not violate your right and you do not violate my right, and we will have peaceful coexistence in order to build a nation that will guarantee each of us liberty, dignity, and prosperity. That is the essence of peace in the Gambia.
Wow, thank you very much. Hon.Halifa Sallah, he has given us a very precise and a very summarized idea surrounding peace. We apologize for the late start. To be frank enough, the traffic is so disturbing these days as the Tobaski is coming. We promised that the show is going to start by 11, but unfortunately the traffic, and as a result we could not start at the stated time. But nonetheless, Mr. Sallah is here to discuss on the role of politicians in ensuring peaceful elections, as 2021 to 2023 is electoral cycle year, and as a result we have a lot to do looking at our country and even beyond. Elections in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020 have been, not easy in some countries in Africa. So having Mr. Sallah here today, who is the Secretary General of PDIS, to discuss on the role of politicians in ensuring peaceful election is actually very important. But Mr. Sallah, before we go further, I was advised by some eminent people that, peace talk show also, if we want the information to go further and wider, we have to actually use our language, So actually what you stated here is very important. If you can actually summarize this in either Mandinka or Wolof, I will be very glad.
I think that is the dilemma I am facing.
Okay.
Which language do you use so that everybody will be able to get the message? I will propose that after we finish this one, you invite me again. We discuss purely in Mandinka, and invite me again, we discuss purely in Wolof. I think that will save the situation. But if I am to select one language or the other, then the communication will be restricted by language, and that is why using something that appears universal, but it is not, and that is the language that we call official language, will be much more constructive at this stage. But if you do open the lines and a person asks in Mandinka, then I will respond in Mandinka. Or a person asks in Wolof, I will respond in Wolof. So I think maybe at a given stage you can do that. If we go halfway, then, No
problem, Mr. Sallah. As a nation, you stated some very fundamental points. As a nation, what do you think we should learn from the past elections and also from elections that happened in the surrounding countries?
Well, I think that is a key question. Key question in the sense that we are not under normal times. And that is what Gambians forget, and that is our dilemma. An individual must grow, associations must grow, but a nation must also grow. You talk about elections. Why? When we were colonized, we did not have the right to elect. In fact, we had to struggle for that right. I can remember as far back as 1924, when these people demanded elected representation, the Secretary of State for Colonies said that the Gambian people had not reached a level of educational maturity where they should be left to participate in electing their representatives. Just imagine. That was the position of the colonial administration, that we were not mature to take charge of our affairs, because election means taking charge of your affairs and electing your own leaders. So we had to struggle for that. And it went to pieces, and I don't want to go into all that history. But we know that by 1965, we did have independence without sovereignty. And 1970, we had independence with sovereignty. And sovereignty means that power resides in each of us. Then how do we govern ourselves? That is why we are given the right to form associations so that we put up candidates, and those candidates will become our presidents, our National Assembly members, our councillors. So elections is a basis, it's an expression of our sovereign authority. It's a means of entrusting our sovereign authority to somebody who is a citizen like all of us, but we give that person power to be able to exercise our authority on our behalf. Of course, if I give you power to exercise authority on my behalf, what I want is what you're going to do. And what I want is liberty and prosperity. So you are entrusted with my power, and you must utilize that power to promote my general welfare. That is what is put in the Constitution, that power resides in the people, sovereignty resides in the people. And no authority should exist without relying on the people for that authority. And that's what election is all about. And no authority should utilize that authority for any other purpose but to promote general welfare. So in short, election should be a period where each Gambian recognizes our commonality as a people. And that what we are simply doing is to select somebody from among us who will be entrusted with the responsibility to manage our resources on our behalf, to come up with policies on our behalf, implement those policies on our behalf, so that we can have good health, education, better roads, electricity, telecommunication supply, everything that makes a human being a human being. That's what they are supposed to deliver. So in that sense, we should not enter that terrain as sovereign citizens with anger, with frustration, with distrust. We should enter that terrain with a very clear mind that we are sincerely looking for citizens like ourselves whom we can give responsibility to serve us. So position of representation is a position of service. Election is power. Power to determine who should serve you. Why should that bring war? Why should that bring fighting? So it shows that we have not attained that level of being a sovereign citizen. So for almost 50-something years, we've been struggling to get there, to be sovereign citizens, but we are not there. And that is why in 2016, for the first time in Gambian history, the Gambian people went to the polls and decided to change a government through the ballot box. That has never happened in our history. So that should have been the breaking point, where all Gambians will say, now we know that we can put presidents in office and we can remove them from office. So we should start afresh as citizens to build a culture that ensures that we have the sovereignty of the people protected and nurtured. One fundamental lesson that we learned in 2016 is that power in a sovereign republic can only be legitimate if you derive it from elections, and if the elections are protected by a constitution, and if the transfer of power is also protected by a constitution. So we've seen three elements, therefore, to be able to have a nation that can have an election in peace and transfer power in peace. First, the election must be free, fair, and genuine. It means that the voter must be free to go and vote, and that is why the voter is protected, so much so that you vote in secret. Nobody knows how you're going to vote. That protects your sovereignty. It shows that you do what you want to do. And once you do that, you wait for the results. If the results show that this particular person, collectively, cooperatively, the sovereign people, more sovereign people, had voted for this person, then that is electoral legitimacy. In 2016, we had electoral legitimacy. That is why the person who lost the election accepted that he lost the election. Then constitutional legitimacy. When should he transfer power? We go to the constitution and see, yes, within 3 months, before the end of the term of the person, you will have elections. So if you have it before the end of the term, the person will have a residue of a term limit left. So you have to know that. And once you compute that, you know that on this day, the person is supposed to leave office. So that is constitutional legitimacy. On that particular day, the person leaves office, and then you have peace, the starting point of another government. So what political parties are, they are just simply instruments for the determination of representation. You prepare yourself, prepare the policies that if you are in office, you will put into operation. That's what political parties are. That is, they help the people to know what type of policies will actually be put in place. So you vote on that basis. And therefore, you can gauge whether the person is doing what you believe the person would do. All these should not actually lead to any form of violence. So 2016 was a lesson, and all Gambians should have emerged from it as one people, because the change could not be identified to any ethno-linguistic group or religious group or any group, no party. So it is simply a change of the people of the Gambia, and therefore we should have built a country that is united, so that in the next election, each person will be mature enough to be able to determine for oneself who would actually carry out the policies that will serve your interests. If we manage to do that, then of course we'll have a peaceful country, admired throughout the world, with sustainability, because development must be sustainable. One goes, the other comes and start from where you are and then move forward. That is what leads to sustainability in development. So therefore, democracy, elections are weapons for sustainable development. They are weapons for peace, and we should cherish them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sallah. The reason why I asked this question, 2016, others will say it was, era of change in the Gambia, but also it brought something that actually has a monumental effect in the lives of Gambians. And aside from that lesson, also we have seen Guinea Conakry during their election. We have seen Uganda. We have seen Ivory Coast. We have seen Mali. Some of these elections were not easy in the sense that, we have lessons to learn from those countries and even our own country here as well. So therefore, in trying to predict what is to come in 2021 also, at the December polls and the subsequent election also, I think it's very important for people to realize that to have elections in a very peaceful and a very conducive environment is better than having elections in a very violent environment, because when violence comes, no one knows who is going to be the victim. Aside from that, moving from that end, now come to, as you are a politician and you have a lot of people in the political, in the environment today who are politicians, and I do not think politicians should subscribe into inflammatory or defamatory language. What actually do you think, should be done in order to solve this?
Well, I believe that Gambia should have been an exception, because we know what happened before 2016 elections. Is the defamatory, inflammatory languages that really inflamed the political situation to a point that people were predicting that we will have a civil war in the Gambia. The ambassadors believed that. The media believed that. Nobody in the world really believed that 2016 was going to be a peaceful matter. In fact, even ECOWAS never believed that the elections would be close to even fair, to the point that they didn't even bother to send monitors to the elections. So we were all to ourselves. And what did Gambians do? The fact that the campaign was peaceful and a coalition was built that talked about one Gambia, one nation, one people, which motivated all those who did not want the other government to galvanize and come together. But they were also united and organized to a point that you had a peaceful campaign. There was counting on the spot, and the person who lost the election knew he lost the election and did what anybody who wanted with a noble intention would do, that is to call and say, I've lost the election. That is the lesson of the Gambia. Even though we had an impasse because of reneging from that position, but the reneging from the position by one side did not lead to overreaction by the other side. The coalition side continued to tell the people, forget about the decision of this other side to nullify the election. The law is what is important. The constitution is what is important. You cannot nullify elections by just simply making pronouncement. You have to go and file an election petition. And of course, the person who lost the election went to file an election petition. And the process continued to tell the people that the legitimacy of that government ends on the 18th of January 2017. So don't bother. That is the person who must run the country during that period. So make sure that you obey the laws and forget about the transition, because it will come, the change will come. Of course, that is what happened on the 19th. So in short, the lesson of the Gambia is that if we have genuine elections and rely on constitutional mandate to transfer power, the end result is to have a peaceful end. What type of government will emerge? Well, that's another matter. The government may serve the interests of the people, it may not serve the interests of the people. But if it serves the interests of the people, well, the people will know that the change they effected is the type of change they really wanted. If it fails to address the needs of the people, well, the people will say, well, the change we effected is not what has delivered what we expected, and we have a right to change it again. It is that capacity to change on a continuous basis based on a constitutional mandate that ensures the sustainability of peaceful coexistence of different political parties and different political entities. So that is what Gambia should maintain. What is happening in other countries is just the opposite. It has not happened there. But here, it has happened, and we should sustain that. So our lesson is best practice, and it is that best practice that we should sustain.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sallah. We will come shortly. We will come to the issue of the conflict development analysis that was given by UNDP in 2018 and 2019. But you are also the co-chair to the Inter-Party Committee, and I've read through the MOU that the 9 political parties had in 2017, and also which was revised, in 2021 when almost 2020 when you have almost 16 political parties. As the co-chair of Inter-Party Committee, and you have some code of conduct, what actually do you do in case when politicians desist or continuously violate the code of conduct of the MOU that they shine in trying to use unfortunate language in the front lines as they are campaigning or giving statements?
Well, what is important to give hope to people is that you have stages of development of values. The first stage is to state the values, and that's what we had done in the Memorandum of Understanding signed by first the 9 political parties and eventually endorsed by all political parties. Now, once a political party is registered, there is already a resolution where they will declare their support for the Inter-Party Committee, and automatically they will become members. The objective of building that association of political parties is to bind each to a code of conduct, to ensure that the language we use will not be inflammatory, it will not be defamatory, it will not undermine the integrity of anyone, but will simply tell people what their party policies are. That is what we agree, that we should not really advocate incite violence. We must ensure that there is separation of powers, that if you are a government, then you should know that government resources belong to the people. You should not utilize it for your own political object. If you are even opposing that government, make sure that you also do not utilize the resources of the state for your own political end. Each person, if you support a political party, that should not interfere with the service that you deliver as a nurse, as a doctor, as a teacher, because you are paid by the people. You should go there and you should not sabotage any work. Do what is supposed to be done, even if it is going to be taken as a credit by the existing government. So what is really important then is to move to the next stage, that if we do have differences, we should be able to write to the Inter-Party Committee and indicate where we believe one party has violated the code of conduct. And then the Inter-Party Committee will sit and mediate the dispute so that we settle it. Well, these are ground rules. The government can also, if it sees that a party has done anything that is not in line with the code of conduct, write. The IEC could do the same, right to the Inter-Party Committee for a discussion and resolve the dispute. So that is the machinery we have created. But both of us know that creating a machinery and implementing it are two different things. So first and foremost, our task has been and will continue to be to sensitize people on the code of conduct. That is what we talk about. We must institutionalize and operationalize the MOU. So to institutionalize it, it means we must diversify regionally to create institutions of sensitization and mobilization to understand the code of conduct and spread it among our support base and the population at large. So that is the first phase. And as we do that, and conflict may arise, and if they continue to rely on the Inter-Party Committee for the resolution of those disputes, then the Inter-Party Committee becomes the apex institution for the promotion of peace in the country. And that's our aspiration. It is developing stage by stage. we believe that it will accelerate its action as we move towards election. And we hope that because of the fact that all the parties are committed to it, especially the leadership, that stage by stage we'll be able to impact on the values of the support base, so that they also take ownership of the code of conduct. And that's what you call acculturation. You must continue to nurture that until the people accept those values, and then it becomes a way of life. Once all of us accept those values, then we'll have a very peaceful country.
Well, yes, Mr. Sallah, when you look at the MOU, it is actually well stated and well articulated or well written. But as a result, sometimes it's so sad that the leaderships, others will say the leadership, you know, at the highest level of a particular political party, will actually endorse the MOU or endorse the MOU, but some of the party militants who are at the grassroots do not understand this. And as a result, they see people in the other political camps as their potential enemies, and that hatred and that boundary is built. How do you think, or how, as the co-chair of the inter-party committee, how can this thing be synchronized from the highest official in the party to the lowest official at the farthest village, so that, you know, that harmony can be established to have a very sustainable and a very peaceful environment? Because this is the language of the MOU.
Yes, that is precisely the strategic objective now, is how to decentralize, create regional IPCs, inter-party committees, so that they will be charged with the responsibility of disseminating the code of conduct at the lowest level.
Okay.
It is also to translate the, just as you've said, we are communicating in English. We are not communicating to the vast majority of our people. So the translation of the MOU into our local languages is work in progress. And to ensure that everybody accesses the code of conduct. Mass production of the code of conduct is also being done. The MOU is being done for distribution in schools. So it is believed that if we intensify sensitization, people will first get the information. But it does not mean that once you get the information, you are going to respect what is there. But at least you know it is there. Even if you are doing something wrong, you know you are doing something wrong. So that is part of the acculturation. So first, let us ensure that all of us are committed to something that you may even violate because of your interest. But as time goes on, you will begin to see that you are violating something and you are being exposed for it. Sooner or later, you are bound to retreat and see that, well, you move from violation to observation to respect. So we believe that it's a process. We should not expect that even the leaders will adhere to the code of conduct, but the fact that they have signed and endorsed it, that is the first stage. Then the code of conduct will have moral authority, because we can now rely on it to point at your errors. But if you don't sign at all, it means that you are not committed to anything. So we must say that the achievement, first achievement, is the fact that every political party that emerges in the Gambia will endorse the MOU as your basic principles for political conduct in the country. That is a big, remarkable achievement. What is important now is to move from endorsement to implementation. And we hope that that process will also develop as we move towards elections.
Yes, that is well stated. In fact, that was a question that I would have asked you, the strategies put in place by the inter-party committee to ensure that the MOU is well understood by all the Gambians. Apart from these strategies that you have stated, do you have any other, like, conducting, symposium among politicians and, inter-party debates and discussions?
Well, we've seen that the inter-party committee should be a forum for consultation and dialogue. It's not a forum for divisions. We believe that in terms of the debates on policies, well, that will be handled by civil society, the CSOs, inviting political parties so that they can debate. So when we come to the inter-party, we look at the issues that bring all the parties together, so that we do not have divergences shown in our conduct. The real objective of the inter-party committee is acculturation of political values of peace, respect for the rule of law, democracy, and respect for each other's right to seek representation from the people. We should not destroy people's pamphlets. We should not distort people's policies. We should not do anything to undermine the exercise of right by a political party. We should really respect, like sometimes a political party can put an emblem and then you go and tear it. You know, those are things that we want to move away from, so that each will respect the other.
Like the burning of T-shirts.
Yes, burning of T-shirts and things of that nature. That really respect the emblem, respect the T-shirts, respect the campaign of other political parties. Do not interrupt their rallies. Do not do anything to sabotage their activities. Leave them to tell the people what they intend to do and leave the people to decide. That is really the culture of the Inter-Party Committee.
That is fine. That is good. That is good. And that is commendable. Okay, in 2018, the UNDP published what you call the conflict development analysis. And in this conflict development analysis, they said that ethnic tension and ethnopolitics are becoming rampant in the Gambia here, or is on the rise. And as a result, what do you think we can use as a solution? You know, because ethnic politics and ethnic tensions are recipes for catastrophes or dangers. What do you think can be used to ensure that these issues are resolved?
Well, I have said that analysis simply help us to understand reality, and that is the UNDP's focus. From my own perception, when I look at 2016 and I saw where Gambia was heading, I would say yes, different individuals can try to utilize ethno-linguistic, I prefer to call it ethno-linguistic sentiments, religious sentiments, sometimes gender, age sentiments, to build political support base. They would and they will try, but can they succeed? Have they succeeded? Will it succeed? I've not seen that succeed, you know, in the Gambia, and consequently, I believe that anybody who takes that cause is really after a lost cause, because ultimately, if you look at the political composition of the Gambia at this stage, look at all the 18 political parties, you see divergence of political leadership. Maybe one ethno-linguistic group will have 3, 4 people who will be vying for a presidential, you know, candidate. So who will the people vote for in that? So it means that the ethno-linguistic group, if people were just voting on the basis of ethno-linguistic group, they will be divided into 4 or 5 or 10. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So therefore, ethno-linguistic analysis will not be complete if you rely on this simple sense, common sense, that people are going to vote for people on the basis of the ethno-linguistic association. So in actual terms, Gambia must move to the next level. This is a level, I agree, but it's a level that is not sustainable, and it's a level that will never help any person to actually get to power. The level that we must move to is the level that created Gambia to be Gambia. We are a sovereign republic. Every individual is a sovereign citizen, and we are all equal in sovereignty. The real majority is the citizenry, compared to the ethno-linguistic group, to the religious group, to the gender, to the age. All are minority compared to the citizenry. So the citizenry constitute the majority. So each political party should try to get affiliation from the citizenry at large, so that you will get the majority to support you. That is the politics that is sustainable. And I believe those who divert themselves from that, yes, they create tension here and there, a lot of noises, but ultimately the result has never been and will never be to their advantage. So the sooner political figures gather this, to know that behind the ethno-linguistic diatribes, there is the reality of the Gambia as a nation with citizens who constitute the majority. And anybody who wants to rely on a majority group, a minority grouping, to try to win the majority is bound for failure. So you'll be divided in so many different ways that you will never get there. So in that sense, I believe the sooner we learn that lesson, the better.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sallah. The viewers we have here today, Hon.Halifa Sallah, the Secretary General of PDOIS and also the co-chair of the Inter-Party Committee. We are discussing on the role of politicians in ensuring peaceful elections. And we have discussed on so many fundamental issues which, when utilized, we can have a very fruitful election which is going to be surrounded by peace and harmony. Mr. Sallah, now moving to DOI, that is your political party, what are your values and your principles toward conduct of peace, or towards your conduct towards peace?
Well, first and foremost, DOI is committed to the Memorandum of Understanding of the Inter-Party Committee. But not only that, as a party for years, we are committed to one principle, the principle of the sovereignty of the nation and the sovereignty of the people. We've always been convinced that the reason why we became a republic is because we wanted our people to take charge of their destiny. Now, when you say people, you cannot isolate any ethno-linguistic group, you cannot isolate any gender, you cannot isolate any age, you cannot isolate any religion, because it's people. Each person is sovereign with a vote equal to the other. And if I go to the hospital now, I just want to be cured. If I send my child to school, I want that child to be taught by a teacher who cares. I want to get out and see a road that is well paved. I want to have regular electricity. I want to have regular water supply. So in essence, I want services that are affordable, that are accessible, and that are of good quality. That's what I want as a human being. I cannot give that to myself. My nation needs to give that to me. So it is wrong to say, well, ask what you can do for your nation, don't ask what your nation can do for you. That's a misconception of what development is all about. Your nation should give you this. That's what I'm demanding for my nation. That's why I said we must participate in having a government. So in short, what is important to us as DOI is to see that that nation belongs to the people, and they should really be united as a people. So fundamentally, as you asked, the principle is that the cornerstone of our political existence is that the person must love country and people. You must be ready to even die for that country and people. So the highest value that anybody can embrace in a republic is to be ready to even die for that country and people. So it is that love of country and people that makes you to transform you into a person of service. So wherever you are ready to serve those people so that they can have the best. And if everybody is ready to serve the nation, to give their best, we will have the best of nations. And that is really the trajectory that must be cultivated in every citizen, in every party, so that in common, even if we have differences as to the approaches, in common we will all be committed to that principle of love of country and people, and work to unite the country and people rather than divide the people for our individual interests.
Okay. Mr. Sallah, certainly we are going to open the lines for people to call and also contribute. As we all had heard from Mr. Sallah, he is the party Secretary General to PDOIS. And you can also call to contribute, because this nation can only be developed through collective and collaborative effort. So you can call on 3690164 and you will join us live online, and you will ask your questions, or you can also comment on the issue. Mr. Sallah, before calls will start coming, your party, PDOIS, what regulations do you have for those who do not go in line with the values and they start using inflammatory or defamatory language in the political, stages?
Well, we have seen from our own party development that a citizen can never be expelled from being a citizen of a nation. And that is why under our own constitution, there is no clause for expelling a party member. But essentially, you can be sanctioned by being confronted with what you're saying. We can also issue statement to dissociate ourselves from anything said of that nature. So in that sense, we try to ensure that internally we have disciplinary measures through which you realize that you will not fit in into our own political environment if you tend to utilize this defamatory and inflammatory language. I believe that that has helped us over the years to build internal self-discipline, where people know that, well, if I'm to be part of this group, then my conduct must change. And as a result, even if they had been doing certain things, they tend to change over the years. And I believe that that is the right approach to the issue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sallah. That is very clear.
Because we have a code of conduct.
Okay.
And it's in the Constitution.
Okay. Mr. Sallah, somebody is calling us. Let's hear from him. Hello. Welcome to the Peace Talk Show.
Hello?
Yes, hello. Welcome to the Peace Talk Show.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to contribute to your program.
Thank you.
I'm calling from Morocco. I'm calling from Morocco.
Okay.
I just want to thank Honorable Sallah for what he has done for our country.
Okay.
It's a big honor for me to talk and then on his platform.
Okay.
All what I can say is that I'm urging the Gambian population to listen us. We all know we are heading to 2021 presidential election. We have seen all the candidates right now. I'm sure some of them are still. I'm sure some of them will be emerging.
Yes. Hello. Hello.
If they really want peace
in
the country.
Okay.
Hello?
We're getting you.
I said the Gambian people ought to know the person who deserves to be the president of our country.
Okay.
So I'm urging Gambian everywhere let us support Halifa Sallah. Let us listen to what he has been saying for decades.
Okay.
I once again on this Friday I would like to pray for him. Long life, health, that all that man deserves now. We just wishing him long life and health.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for the call, and we wish you all the best. Mr. Sallah, he is wishing you all the best, and he is saying that we are approaching 2021 election. Do you have any contribution to his statement for?
It will not be a sign of humility to do that, except to show appreciation to what they said. And critically, all of us must open our minds and ensure that we make a decision based on informed choice.
Okay.
That is what is important.
Hello, welcome to the Peace Talk Show.
Hello, good day.
Good day, sir.
How are we?
We are fine, sir.
That's great. Thank you for allowing me into.
Okay. Okay.
Dauda Samate calling from Italy right now.
Okay.
People should learn leadership is not compulsory. You don't impose yourself on people. It's based on your character that people should choose you, or your approach towards people. People should choose you on that one. One thing I want to say is the problem that we are in is not because of the leaders, because of our presidents currently, but I blame the citizens, including me. I'm part of those one. That should be blamed. Every 5 years we do go to choose an presidential candidate. After the election, all what we said is Honorable Sallah is saying a good positive words, but at the end of the day, people don't vote for him. So people will say that why is it that people are not voting for him? PDOIS is not winning, but is it that when APRC won the election or when the coalition won the election, did the Gambia win or is the party that should win? I think Gambia, the country should win. So if the country did not win, automatically all the parties that win, that declare themselves as the winner, didn't win. So my advice to myself and all.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your contribution. Hello. Hello. Yes. Welcome to the Peace Talk Show. Hello.
Hello, bro.
Yes. Welcome to the Peace Talk Show, sir.
Thank you for having me. We are just grateful that we have a person.
Okay. Please, can you speak louder? Oh, sorry. We're sorry that one is actually disconnected. You can call again 3690-164 and you will contribute to the show. And Mr. Sallah, yes, they have been saying some statements. I'm sure you were listening. Do you have any comment on what they shared, or we just move on again?
Well, you've got the last lesson, which is saying that we should elect our leaders on the basis.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, I want to speak in Mandinka. I don't know you like it.
Yeah.
You are at liberty to speak any language.
Hello.
Yes, isa di amo no manika ka wala mbe konton na?
Okay, mbal konto na baake.
Okay, ngejo.
Menkera na nyadon ko Halifa Sallah ba fanan konto na baake.
Okay.
Ala program mo diare nya baake.
Okay.
Mbala me kam baake le so nin kay almu ale Halifa Sallah so nyado tala ala balwo ko no baake.
Amin, amin, amin.
Ado molo mati nyadon ko taman sero no bala.
Okay. Abaraka baake.
Man saya ala la kadu di bari ate dal ngani yo bebe mol bebe le pro ala saki man saki almu ale akot.
Amin.
Karena bangko beson tempo ning kay rola. Kalau dia mau dia maka tempo ni ning ka bangko pa.
Abaraka baake. Hello. Hello, welcome to the Peace Talk Show.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we are getting you.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, good afternoon.
Thank you very much for the opportunity
Okay.
of following the program.
Okay,
It's a very important and a timely program as well.
thank you.
Going by the name.
Okay,
I just got a question for Honorable Sallah.
Okay.
We've seen PDI has been in existence for a long time.
Okay.
The leadership are well trusted and respected in the Gambia.
okay.
We've seen a lot of political parties emerging since 2016. My question to him would be, based on lots of these political parties and DOI, what's the three things that make DOI stand out in terms of policies and programs and in terms of leadership compared to those many other political parties that are aspiring for this December 4th election? That was my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The question is well heard. Mr. Sallah, we just are saying, closing all the lines now. And we are very sorry the time is so limited, so those are the calls that we allowed. Mr. Sallah, the person has asked a question. I'm sure you will respond to the question or answer the question.
Yes, I will respond to it, but it is not in the context of our program.
Yes.
Because that is going deeply to allow me to propaganda for DOI. Essentially, I think fundamentally, DOI is committed to consolidation of the sovereignty of the Gambian people. So we are out to nurture the sovereign Gambian. I think that is, you'll see that to be very different from every other party that has ever existed here. To have a political program whose fundamental objective is to nurture the sovereign Gambian. That is why we're saying you cannot have a new Gambia without a new Gambian. So that sovereign Gambian must be conscious that each of us is equal in sovereignty, and we must work towards building that nation of sovereign Gambians. That is number one. Number two, you look at the First Republic, Second Republic, even now, you go to the central bank, you will find that the national wealth comes from taxation, from grants, and from loans. And the loans have been increasing. So this is not a source of wealth that can free our people from poverty. We are talking about, number two, that there should be sovereign national wealth. If you are mining Batakunkusanyang Katong minerals, in the First Republic, they didn't even talk about. They just say Gambia is a groundnut country, full stop. No prospecting to know what minerals existed. Second Republic, they started the process, but the minerals were mined, and you would not know where the money was going. Now it is just giving license to others to come and mine. So, but this belongs to the Gambian people. At least for Doi, we are saying, we cannot allow an investor to get, the 80, 70, 60. It is this nation that must get the 90% and the investor the 10%. Why? So that what we derive from there, you can go back to Sanyang and tell them, well, look at all the destruction of the environment. So if we're going to make this wealth, we'll sign a memorandum of understanding with the nation. 10% must go back to Sanyang to rehabilitate the environment that is being destroyed and also to ensure that you provide services to the community. But the rest must go to the Sovereign Wealth Fund. And that Sovereign Wealth Fund will be designed to eradicate poverty. Come from GTCI, you want milling machine to go and produce flour from our coast. Well, the cooperative bank will give you the support so that you will be able to get the milling machine. And then once you work and make the resources, you'll pay back to this cooperative bank without interest, so that you will be accompanied in development. The vegetable gardeners, the same thing. You give them fertilizer, seed, farming, implement the farm. So in short, we're talking about the creation of a sovereign wealth fund. Just look at our ocean. People have been captured here. In our waters. They have been given fines. People pay license. But we have never made it an effort to transform those ones into fishing vessels, to put it back, or help our Navy not only to have vessels to protect our waters, but also another fleet that will produce so that they will be able to support them. So in a way, we believe that what Doi is talking about is giving ownership of the wealth of the nation in our waters, on land, in the airspace, back to the people.
Back to the people. Back to the people, Mr. Sallah, and that is very clear. And I hope the one who asked the question, your question is well answered. Mr. Sallah, before this may be like second to last question. Others are saying more political parties means more problem in the Gambia. And as a result, the inter-party committee, as you said, once a resolution is there, once you register as a political party, you attain automatic membership or become an inter-party member. Understand? And as a result, we have seen that most of these political parties are actually, some will say they are more or less like radicalized sort of. And as a result, I think the inter-party committee has to stand on its feet to make sure that the values of the MOU is well cherished. And moving from that, Mr. Sallah, people are calling still, but we are sorry that the time has gone, and Mr. Sallah is coming to give a statement to the nation on the role of politicians in ensuring peaceful election in a very summarized and in a very concise manner. And we wrap up the show and say bye-bye to you. Mr. Sallah, what statement do you have for the Gambians, your colleagues in the political atmosphere or in the political stage or arena? And what do you have for the mothers and sisters? What do you have for the brothers? What do you have for the school-going children? What do you have for the aspiring politicians? Because this country cannot be put on these sparks. We deserve peace all the time in order to have our dignity and our integrity. What do you have for the nation? What do you have for your children? What do you have for your grandchildren?
Well, it's very clear, and that starting from what you've said, over 300,000 children come from our lower basics and upper basic schools. Over 106,000 would be in the upper basic, whilst 300,000 in the lower basic. Over 68,000 in our senior secondary schools. Combined together, you're talking about over 500,000 children coming out of our school system every 12 years. What do we have for them? They only know one nation, that is the Gambia, with an ocean, land space, air space. This is where the wealth of the nation resides. It is our duty now to come up with the policies to be able to harness from our waters, from the land, from the airspace, the wealth, sovereign national wealth we need, and ensure that we get it to the people to eradicate their poverty. We cannot have a nation endowed with so much wealth whilst our people wallow in the midst of poverty. That is not acceptable. So the real problem is not the lack of resources. The real problem is the poverty of the mind, the poverty of policy. But again, we have a nation that is in the hands of the people. For years, we have refused to help the people to understand that power belongs to them. This has been the drawback of our political development. You've mentioned the number of political parties. People occupy themselves with numbers. But the reality is that freedom of association includes freedom of political association, which means that any group of people can form a political party. That is a right. But ultimately, you can only come to office if the vast majority of Gambians put you in office. So therefore, the number of political parties do not really matter. What matters is the mindset of the Gambian people. What are we looking for in a political party? That is what must now be shaped. Because what we should be looking for are the policies that will address our needs and aspirations. So each Gambian must grow up. We have not had that opportunity with the right type of citizenship education. All of us should have benefited from that since 1965. Citizenship education, so that we know that really our nation holds us as her children. You are a child of the family. Your family, your mother, father will have sleepless nights just to ensure that you are well fed. You are healed. Well, the child of the family is protected by the family. What about the child of the nation? The nation should provide you with free meals at school, free education, a national service when you finish grade 12, so that 1 year you get training anywhere at national expense. And then you search for the work that you can do for the nation to prosper. So my fundamental point is, we are yet to build a nation that is protective of her children. And that is the motherly and fatherly nation that Gambia needs. And now, more than ever, we are in it together. The leaders do not make themselves. It is the people who make them. The maker cannot be inferior to what is made. And that is the lesson that people should go with today. That is the takeaway, that you are the maker of the leader, and therefore the maker of your nation. Take charge, be a new Gambian, and let's build a new Gambia.
Wow, those are very powerful concluding remarks, that the maker cannot be made inferior, and the maker are the citizens, that is the masses. Mr. Sallah, we thank you very much for actually showing up to the Peace Talk. So we are never disappointed when Mr. Sallah show up to our platforms, and today also the bar has been raised high. And we thank you very much for coming on to the Peace Talk platform. This is a weekly program that is brought to sensitize and also educate the people on issues surrounding our national peace and security. And we say thank you very much for showing up, and we all heard what Mr. Sallah said. We're supposed to take what Mr. Sallah said, analyze it, evaluate it, and put it at the best interest, not at our personal level, but at our national level. This show is not for personal, this show is for national. That's why we call it the Peace Talk show. Mr. Sallah, God bless you, and see you again sooner. And we're saying thank you to our able audience who actually are following up, and the callers, we are saying thank you to you all, and our able technicians in the Fado network here, we're saying big gratitude to you for giving us the necessary and the adequate coverage. That's your host, Alassane Jallow alias Justice. See you next week. Happy